So, good morning, everyone. Today we'll be having kind of a mini retreat on the topic that I've been talking about for several weeks on Tuesday nights, which is accumulating merit and purification. So I've been explaining those practices, and today we'll be doing some of them together. So what I plan to do, I hope we can do it this morning we'll do the practice of prostrations to the 35 Buddhas. This is a purification practice. But it's also accumulating merit. Yeah, it's not that purification and accumulating merit are like totally separate and disconnected. But when we do purification, the way we do purification, we're also accumulating merit. I'll explain later. And when we accumulate merit, we're probably doing a certain amount of purification as well. Yeah, some of our negative energy is getting purified. So those two sort of overlap in different ways. And then after the practice of the 35 Buddhas, I thought we could also do a practice that includes the 7-limb prayer, because that's a prayer that we usually recite on many occasions, like before teachings and so on. And those 7 limbs are either purification or accumulation of merit, or both. So those 7 limbs are said to summarize the most important practices for purification and accumulating merit. And then in the afternoon, we'll have a break, 12 to 2, and then after lunch, we'll do a practice that I believe it was composed by Lama Zopa Rinpoche, called the extensive offering practice, which is for accumulating merit. And then at the end, we'll do a practice of Vajrasattva, which is purification. So that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. But to start with this morning, I thought we could do a meditation to generate a really strong bodhicitta motivation, because when I explained, I think it was the first talk that I gave, explaining the accumulation of merit, I mentioned different motivations that we may have for things that we do. And some people are just thinking about this lifetime and wanting good experiences in this lifetime, good health and prosperity and long life and things like that, which is okay, but it's just limited to this lifetime. And so in Buddhism, we're encouraged to think beyond this life, because this life will end at some point, but we won't end, in the sense that our mind will leave this body, but it will continue on and take another body, another rebirth. And where we are born and what kind of experiences we have in our next life depend a lot on how we live our life, what we do here and now. So if we create virtue, do good deeds, we will have a good rebirth and good experiences. But if we create non-virtue, misdeeds, bad karma, then we will have an unfortunate rebirth and suffering. So how we live our life really determines our next life, next experiences. So it's important to, take that into consideration, think about our next life and future lives, and live our life accordingly. Make sure we create the causes for happiness and avoid the causes of suffering. So that's another reason for doing practice, is to create the causes for a good rebirth and good experiences in the next life. But then that's also limited, because even if we have a good rebirth, we're still in samsara, the cycle of death, rebirth, problems, confusion. So that's not, a really ultimate final goal. We just keep circling in samsara. So then a higher goal is nirvana, liberation from samsara. And so for some people that is their goal. They want to get out of this cycle of dying and being reborn, being confused, suffering, and so on. So that's another motivation for practice, is to attain nirvana, liberation. And then the highest motivation that we could have is bodhicitta. So that is based on the wish to free yourself from samsara and attain nirvana. You think about other people, other beings, and realize, wow, they're suffering too. And wouldn't it be nice if they could be free of suffering? And I want to help them. I want to do something to help them be free of suffering. It's a bit like, if you were trapped in a burning building and you had friends, colleagues, maybe family members who are also in this burning building, you probably wouldn't only want to get yourself out and then go away and leave them behind in that burning building, right? But you want to free them as well. You want to free everybody else from that burning building. So that's the bodhicitta motivation, is thinking, I want to help everybody become free of samsara and attain liberation and enlightenment. And to be able to do that, to be able to help everybody else, we need to attain enlightenment. As long as we're still in samsara, still limited in our own spiritual development, we won't be able to help all other beings. And so that's the bodhicitta motivation, is I want to become a Buddha, fully enlightened, so that I can help all other beings. So in our tradition, we're advised, it's recommended that we generate that motivation as our reason for doing the things that we do. And it takes a long time to reach enlightenment. It's not something we'll probably accomplish in this life. It may take many lifetimes, but we can still aim for that. We can still have that as our ultimate and long-term goal, and do what we do with that motivation. And so that's really the best motivation to have, because it will accumulate the most amount of merit. Yeah, anything we do with bodhicitta motivation becomes the cause for a huge amount of merit and many, many good results. Not just enlightenment, but lots of other good things along the way, including in this lifetime. Greater happiness and peace of mind, and we're able to get along with others better. And yeah, even in this life, we'll be happier. Things will go better. So I thought, yeah, we could start by doing a meditation to generate a bodhicitta motivation that will cover everything we're doing today, so that everything we're doing today is done with that motivation. Okay, so this will be like a little guided meditation. So please make yourselves comfortable. And you might want to observe the breath coming in and going out for a few minutes to settle your mind down, because you may have been rushing around this morning, getting ready to come and then coming here. It's good to just let the mind settle. Put aside other thoughts of the past or the future, other places, and so on. Just let your mind be right here in this present moment and present place, Amitabha Buddhist Center, so that you can make the most of your time here. So, all living beings want to be happy, and nobody wants to suffer. So this is something we all have in common. Just as we, each one of us, doesn't want any pain or problems or suffering, the same is true for everyone else. Human beings as well as animals, all living beings. And we are also the same in wanting to be happy, to have good experiences, starting with our most basic needs, having food to eat, being comfortable, being safe, protected from harm and danger, and being loved, cared for by others. Everybody wants those things. However, the unfortunate thing is that we are in samsara, cyclic existence, and as long as we're in this situation, we don't always have the happiness we wish for, and we often experience suffering and problems that we don't wish for. And this situation is due to the causes of suffering in our mind, basically karma and afflictions or delusions, like ignorance about the true nature of things, also ignorance about karma, and anger, hatred, attachment, craving, jealousy, pride, and many other afflicted states of mind. So these are in our mind, and they sometimes come up in a very strong way, disturbing our mind and inciting us to do negative actions, create negative karma, and which then becomes the cause for our own suffering, bad experiences. But we are not doomed to remain in samsara forever. We can become free. There is a way out. Buddha found the way out and explained how to do it in his teachings. We're really fortunate that we have the chance to learn these teachings and practice them, so that we can get ourselves out of this situation, free ourselves from samsara, and attain genuine peace and happiness. But what about everyone else, all those other beings? Not all of them have the chance to learn the Dharma and practice the Dharma and get themselves out. And the Buddha, in his teachings, said that it's difficult for him to see any being who has not been our mother in our past lives, which stretch back to beginningless time. We've had so many lifetimes, and we've had so many mothers and fathers who brought us into the world and took care of us when we were small. And it's not always the same person. There are beings that have been our mother and father, but we've had different mothers and fathers in our many lifetimes. And so the Buddha basically said that everybody, every being, has been our mother and our father and our teacher and our brother and sister and so on. So we've had every possible relationship with every being. There's no one who is a stranger. We just don't remember, because we can't remember our past lives, and we can't recognize our past mothers and fathers. But they're around us. In fact, everyone in the world has been our mother and our father. So that means we've received kindness, care, love from every person, every being. That may be difficult to accept, but another way to realize the care and kindness we've received from others is that others provide us with all our needs and enjoyments. So the food that we eat, the water we drink, the clothes we wear, the houses or apartments we live in, the cars we go around in, cars, buses, trains. So everything we use in our life that helps us have a comfortable life, fulfill our needs, enjoy ourselves. So all of these things come from others. There's other people and other beings who work to produce these things and provide them to us. And another way we benefit from the kindness of others is that we need to have good karma to be able to have necessities like food and clothes and shelter. So if we hadn't created good karma in the past, we'd be in a situation where we'd be hungry, starving, cold, not having those necessities. And the main cause for having those necessities, having resources, is the practice of giving, generosity. So we must have practiced that in past lives. We must have given to others with a good motivation. And to be able to practice giving and create that good karma, we need others. We need other people and beings who need our gifts so that we can create that good karma and get the resulting benefit. And the same is true for many of the other practices we develop to follow the path to enlightenment, such as cultivating love and compassion and bodhicitta, practicing ethics and so on. So we need other people and other beings to be able to cultivate those positive states of mind, which then creates the karma to progress along the path, attain higher stages of the path, and eventually enlightenment. So what this means is that all happiness, all good experiences that we have, both in samsara as well as beyond samsara, the attainment of enlightenment, so all these good results depend on other sentient beings. We need other sentient beings to have all these good experiences. So if you're able to accept that, then would it be right to turn our backs on them and only take care of our own needs, free ourselves from suffering, get ourselves out of samsara and not do anything to help other beings. Would that be right? So this is how the Bodhisattvas think. They're very aware of how much benefit, kindness they have received from other sentient beings. And so they're totally committed to helping all other sentient beings be free from samsara, all their suffering and causes of suffering, and for them to become free and enlightened, fully enlightened Buddhas. So see if you can generate that state of mind as well, that you would like to lead all beings out of samsara, out of suffering, and to the peace and happiness and liberation of enlightenment. But to be able to do that, we ourselves need to become enlightened. We can't help others reach enlightenment if we haven't attained that state ourselves. So that's bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is the aspiration, the wish to become a fully enlightened Buddha, to be able to help all other beings reach that state as well. So if that makes sense to you, if you feel comfortable with that, then think that that's your reason for doing the practices that we're going to be doing today. But if you're not yet sure about your ability to attain enlightenment, or your, whatever, if you're not yet completely comfortable with bodhicitta, then you can think, I do want to benefit others as much as I can, so may whatever I do today help me to be helpful to others. Something like that. Okay, and then there are some mantras we can recite to multiply the merit we create. So in this prayer book, the red prayer book, on page 15, so the first mantra, if we recite that 7 times, then any merit we accumulate is multiplied 100,000 times. And so that's a good thing to do. So let's recite that 7 times. Om Sambara Sambara Bhimana Sara Mahajawa Hum. Om Smara Smara Bhimana Skara Mahajawa Hum. Om Sambara Sambara Bhimana Sara Mahajawa Hum. Om Smara Smara Bhimana Skara Mahajawa Hum. Om Sambara Sambara Bhimana Sara Mahajawa Hum. Om Smara Smara Bhimana Skara Mahajawa Hum. Om Sambara Sambara Bhimana Sara Mahajawa Hum. Om Smara Smara Bhimana Skara Maha Jawa Hum. Om Sambara Sambara Bhimana Sara Maha Jawa Hum. Om Smara Smara Bhimana Skara Maha Jawa Hum. Om Sambara Sambara Bhimana Sara Maha Jawa Hum. Om Smara Smara Bhimana Skara Maha Jawa Hum. Om Sambara Sambara Bhimana Sara Maha Jawa Hum. Om Smara Smara Bhimana Skara Maha Jawa Hum. And the next mantra is to increase the merit of any Dharma texts and sadhanas that we recite. Taya ta dare dare ben dare soha. 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 And the next one is to bless mala, prayer beads. If you have one of those, we'll use them later in the afternoon for the Vajrasattva practice. So it's good to do that 7 times and then blow on your mala. And then the power of the mantras we recite is multiplied 1,000,000 times. Om Ruchira Mani Pravataya Hum. 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 And then the practice of the 35 Buddhas is on page 39. So normally this is done together with prostrations, full-length prostrations. How do you normally do that in here? I mean, there's limited space for everyone to do spread out. I mean, some people may not be able to do full-length prostrations because of physical difficulties. So you can do half-length prostrations, and if you can't even do that, you can just put your hands together like this. Does anyone need instructions on how to do prostrations? Yes? Okay. So doing prostrations, it's actually said that we can do prostrations with our body, our speech, and our mind. So in general, prostrating is a way of showing our respect and our appreciation for the Buddha, for the 3 jewels, for our spiritual teachers, and so on. And prostrating is also a way to accumulate merit and purify, especially if we do it together with a practice like the 35 Buddhas. So prostrating with our body, there's different ways of doing it. The full-length prostration, could somebody demonstrate? Would someone be willing to get up and demonstrate? Thank you. Okay, so you start by putting your hands together in front of your heart, and then you touch 4 places: the top of the head, and then the forehead between your eyebrows, and then in front of your throat, and then in front of your heart chakra. So that signifies prostrating with our body and our speech and our mind, and creating the causes to attain various signs and marks of the Buddha. And then you go down on your hands and knees, put your hands down and slide. And then, there's different ways of doing it. some people just stretch their hands out and then get back up again. I've also seen it done like this. When you're down, you put your hands up over your head and then out again, and then you get up on your hands and knees and then stand up again. So that's basically the idea. And the half-length prostration is to, I think everyone knows how to do that because we've been doing it at the beginning. So you start the same way, touching the top of the head, the forehead, the throat, and the heart, and then you just go down on your hands and knees, touch your forehead to the floor, and then stand up again. So that's the half length, or half prostration. And then, some people may not be able to do that because of knee problems or hip problems or whatever. So this is also, I think this is called Anjali, the Anjali Mudra, putting hands together in front of your heart. And I don't know about other traditions. I think Chinese tradition is different, but in the Tibetan tradition, it's said that, we shouldn't have our hands like that, but instead our hands are sort of cupped, and the thumbs are tucked inside. And this is to represent that we're holding a jewel. We are not empty-handed, but we imagine holding a jewel, a precious jewel, which we're offering to the Buddha. So that's the Tibetan tradition, is to have the hands like that. So that's physical prostration, prostrating with the body. And then there's also prostrating with the speech, and that's when we express good qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. So there's certain prayers that we recite that do that. They talk about the Buddha's good qualities, the Dharma good qualities, and so on. Or you can just do it on your own. Whatever good qualities you are aware of, expressing those, that's prostrating with the speech. And then prostrating with the mind is having the attitude of genuine respect and faith. So you're not just doing these physical actions without any thought in the mind. So the ideal thing is to have genuine respect for the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, understanding their qualities and how they are able to benefit you. So the more you learn and think about the qualities of the Buddha, then the more respect you will have. So that's mental prostration. And then this practice of the 35 Buddhas actually comes from a sutra. It's a sutra which is called the Sutra of the Three Heaps. Does anyone know what the three heaps are? Doesn't matter. You have to study to know that. But anyway, the three heaps refer to three things: confession, like confessing our negativities, and rejoicing, that's thinking of virtue, which is part of this practice as well. After confessing negative actions, we rejoice in virtue. We think about the virtuous actions we have done and others have done and rejoice in that. And then dedication, dedicating the merits to others. So there's three practices combined into one. And there's a story behind this sutra, if I can remember. There was a bodhisattva who accidentally caused the death of someone and was felt a lot of remorse and regret and really wanted to purify. And these 35 Buddhas appeared in the space in front of him and explained to him how he could purify that non-virtue. And so that's the origin of the practice. And so the practice basically involves visualizing these 35 Buddhas that are here in the Tanka. And we also add on the 7 medicine Buddhas So it's actually 42 Buddhas that we're prostrating to, reciting their names. You can do that in English or Tibetan or Sanskrit or whatever, while prostrating to them and reciting their names. And then there's a prayer where we actually confess negative actions that we've done. Okay, so let's start by reading together on page 39. It's like a sort of prelude to the practice to get ourselves into the right state of mind. The purpose of my life is to free the numberless sentient beings who are the source of all my past, present, and future happiness, temporary as well as ultimate happiness, including all the realizations of the path, liberation from samsara, and enlightenment, from all the oceans of samsaric suffering, including the causes, delusion, and karma. In order to do this, I must achieve full enlightenment. Therefore, I need to actualize the path. Therefore, I need to purify the defilements. If I were now born in hell, it would be so unbearable. Even one tiny fire spark on my body is hundreds of thousands of times hotter than the whole entire fire energy in this world. It is so unbearable that experiencing it for even an instant is like suffering for many eons. I have created the numberless causes to be born in the hell realms by creating the 10 non-virtuous actions countless times in this and beginningless past lives. I have created numberless causes to be born in the hell realms by breaking the pratimoksha vows, by breaking the bodhisattva vows, and by breaking the tantric vows countless times in this and beginningless past lives. And I have created numberless causes to be born in the hells by creating the heaviest negative karma in relationship with a holy virtuous friend, which includes harming the holy body, breaking the advice, disturbing the holy mind, having non-devotional thoughts, and rising heresy and anger, which produce the greatest obstacles to achieve realizations and create the greatest suffering. Every single one of these negative actions for suffering results. The ripening result, a rebirth in the lower realms. The possessed result, the type of environment I'm born into when again a human. The result similar to the cause in my experience. And the worst one, the result similar to the cause of my actions, which means that again and again I am driven to create the same negative actions in the future. And so again and again I have to experience the 4 suffering results. In this way, samsara has no end. Not only that, but karma increases. So from even a small negative action can come huge suffering results. And karma is definite to be experienced. So every negative actions I have created will definitely bring its result, no matter how long it takes, until it is purified. So from one negative karma, I have to experience the result over and over again for so many hundreds of lifetimes. Understanding this, how can I stand to live life without purifying myself and getting rid of all these negative karmas, just as I would try to get rid of a deadly poison in my body? Not only that, but I'm going to die, can come even today, any moment. Therefore, I must purify all my negative actions right this second. In order to do that, I am going to do these prostrations with the practice of confessing downfalls, and I'm going to do this so that I can develop myself in order to work for the happiness of all sentient beings. So I'll read the visualization, and you can just close your eyes and do your best to visualize this. So first of all, you visualize in the space in front of you your spiritual teacher, if you have one. And if not, you can just visualize Shakyamuni Buddha. Otherwise, if you do have a spiritual teacher, you see your teacher in the aspect of Shakyamuni Buddha. And at his heart, at the heart of the Buddha, is Chenrezig, thousand-armed Chenrezig, as in the statue in the middle of the Gompa. So, but a tiny one, tiny thousand-armed Chenrezig. And then at the heart of Chenrezig is the syllable Hri, which is the seed syllable of Chenrezig. And from that come beams of light, and they sort of come out and then down below the Buddha, and on each beam of light is another Buddha. So there's 42 beams of light coming out and 42 Buddhas, and these are in 6 rows in the space below the Buddha. And each Buddha is sitting on a throne that is supported by elephants, white elephants, and is adorned with pearls. So on each throne is a Buddha. And in the first row, the top row, there are 6 Buddhas that are blue in color in the aspect of Akshobhya, one of the 5 Buddha families. And one exception is the third Buddha has a white face, but a blue body. But the others are all blue, dark blue. And then in the second row, there are 7 Buddhas, and they are white in color, in the aspect of Vairochana. So don't worry about the details. If you know the details, how the Buddhas look, that's okay. Otherwise, just imagine that they are there. And in the third row, there are 7 Buddhas that are yellow in color, in the aspect of Ratnasambhava. And in the fourth row, 7 Buddhas, red in color, in the aspect of Amitabha. And in the fifth row, there are 7 Buddhas that are green in color, in the aspect of Amoghasiddhi. And in the last row, the bottom row, are the 7 medicine Buddhas. So again, don't worry if you don't know all the details. Just think that there are these 7 rows of Buddhas in the space in front of you below Shakyamuni Buddha. And think that each of these Buddhas is the embodiment of all Buddhas of the 3 times and 10 directions, and all the Dharma and Sangha, and all the holy objects like statues, stupas, and scriptures. And they're all manifestations of absolute Guru, the Dharmakaya, the enlightened mind of all the Buddhas. So that's the absolute Guru. So absolute Guru appears in different forms, like these different Buddha figures, as well as stupas, statues, and so on. So think that they all have those qualities. And have complete faith that each one has the power to purify all your negative karma and the imprints, the seeds of your negative karma that have been accumulated since beginningless time. And you may want to think of specific things that you have done, that you remember doing in this lifetime, even many years ago, even when you were a child. So just take a bit of time to think about things that you yourself have done that you want to purify. And we can also purify things we did in past lives, even though we can't remember, but we can just guess that we did actions, even things like killing, stealing, and so on, 10 non-virtuous actions, and so on. So you can just think, whatever non-virtuous action I have ever done in any of my lives from beginningless time, I want to purify those so I don't have to experience the terrible results that would happen otherwise. And then while prostrating, if you can imagine your own body multiplying. So like there's many duplicates of your own body around you in space, and they're all prostrating together to these Buddhas. So what I thought is I would read the names. Probably most people don't know them by heart. So I'll read the names, and those who wish to can prostrate. So you'll need to find a place where you can do that. So after the prostrations to the 35 Buddhas, then you can sit down and we'll read the rest of the prayer together, the actual confession prayer. And since the floor is hard, it's probably good to have one of these orange mats under your knees to protect your knees. Hey, can some people go upstairs too? Is that an option to go up there? Huh?
Yes, it's option, but
It may be locked. I have the key. Some people you can go upstairs in the mezzanine, and there's space up there. So if there's no space here, it looks like it's pretty crowded in the back. So you can go upstairs and And somebody can come up here too in the front. So if you don't know the names by heart, you can just listen as I recite them. Yeah, so some people can go upstairs. There's room up there, lots of room. You can spread out. And it's carpeted too, so if you want to protect your knees. Yeah, we didn't know how many people would show up today, so I thought maybe just a few people and we'd have lots of space. So it's nice to see so many wanting to purify. Come upstairs, go upstairs if you need space. Okay, so again, remember the visualization of these Buddhas in front of you. Shakyamuni Buddha with Chenrezig Avalokiteshvara Kuan Yin at his heart, and then coming out from his heart are these rays of light with a Buddha at the tip of each. 7 rows of Buddhas. The first row is blue, the second row is white, third row is yellow, fourth row is red, the fifth row green, and then the last row are the medicine Buddhas who have different colors. So just get a general sense of those 35 Buddhas there in front of you. Feel they're all looking at you with compassion and love and just wanting to help you be free of your negative karma so you don't have to suffer. And so you can quickly reach enlightenment, the same state they have attained. And feel regret for the negative actions you've done and the strong wish to purify them. Okay, so first you do 3 prostrations while reciting this mantra for multiplying the merit. Om Namo Manjushriye, Namo Sushriye, Namo Uttama-shriye Soha. Om Namo Manjushriye, Namo Sushriye, Namo Uttama-shriye Soha. Om Namo Manjushriye, Namo Sushriye, Namo Uttama-shriye Soha. And then there's 2 other mantras for multiplying the merit. I'll recite those quickly 7 times. If you know them, you can do them with me. Otherwise, just continue prostrating. Chomdene deshan jabada chomba yanta batsope sangye rinchin gelsen la chak salo. Chomdene deshan jabada chomba yanta batsope sangye rinchin gelsen la chak salo. Chomdene deshan jabada chomba yanta batsope sangye rinchin gelsen la chak salo. Chomdene deshan jabada chomba yanta batsope sangye rinchin gelsen la chak salo. Chomdende deshan shepa da chomba yanta patsope sangye rinchin gelsen la chak salo. Chomdende deshan shepa da chomba yanta patsope sangye rinchin gelsen la chak salo. Chomdende deshan shepa da chomba yanta patsope sangye rinchin gelsen la chak salo. Om Namo Bhagavate Ratnaketaratsaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tayata Om Ratne Ratne Maharatne Ratne Bidzaye Soha. Om Namo Bhagavate Ratnaketaratsaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tayata Om Ratne Ratne Maharatne Bidzaye Soha. Om Namo Bhagavate Ratnaketaratsaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tayata Om Ratne Ratne Maharatne Ratne Bidzaye So. Om Namo Bhagavate Ratnaketaratsaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tayata Om Ratne Ratne Maharatne Ratne Bidzaye So. Om Namo Bhagavate Ratnaketaratsaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tayata Om Ratne Ratne Maharatne Ratne Bidzaye So. Om Namo Bhagavate Ratnaketaratsaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tayata Om Ratne Ratne Maharatne Ratne Bidzaye Soha. Om Namo Bhagavate Ratnaketaratsaya Tathagataya Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Tayata Om Ratne 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 Maharatne Ratne Bidzaye Soha. Homage to the confession of the Bodhisattva's downfalls. I, say your name, throughout all times, take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I, throughout all times, take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. I, throughout all times, take refuge in the Guru. I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha. To the founder, Bhagavan Tathagata Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni Buddha, I prostrate. To Tathagata, thoroughly destroying with Vajra essence, I prostrate. To Tathagata, radiant jewel, I prostrate. To Tathagata, King, Lord of the Nagas, I prostrate. To Tathagata, army of heroes, I prostrate. To Tathagata, delighted hero, I prostrate. To Tathagata, jewel fire, I prostrate. To Tathagata, jewel moonlight, I prostrate. To Tathagata, meaningful to see, I prostrate. To Tathagata, jewel moon, I prostrate. To Tathagata, stainless one, I prostrate. To Tathagata, bestowed with courage, I prostrate. To Tathagata, pure one, I prostrate. To Tathagata, bestowed with purity, I prostrate. To Tathagata, water god, I prostrate. To Tathagata, deity of the water god, I prostrate. To Tathagata, glorious goodness, I prostrate. To Tathagata, glorious sandalwood, I prostrate. To Tathagata, infinite splendor, I prostrate. To Tathagata, glorious light, I prostrate. To Tathagata, sorrowless glory, I prostrate. To Tathagata, son of non-craving, I prostrate. To Tathagata, glorious flower, I prostrate. To Tathagata, pure light rays, clearly knowing by play, I prostrate. To Tathagata, lotus light rays, clearly knowing by play, I prostrate. To Tathagata, glorious wealth, I prostrate. To Tathagata, glorious mindfulness, I prostrate. To Tathagata, glorious name, widely renowned, I prostrate. To Tathagata, king, holding the victory banner of foremost power, I prostrate. To Tathagata, glorious one, totally subduing, I prostrate. To Tathagata, utterly victorious in battle, I prostrate. To Tathagata, glorious transcendence through subduing, I prostrate. To Tathagata, glorious manifestations illuminating all, I prostrate. To Tathagata, all subduing jewel lotus, I prostrate. To Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, King, Lord of the mountains, firmly seated on jewel and lotus, I prostrate. So those were the 35 Buddhas and now the 7 medicine Buddhas. To the Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, renowned, glorious King of excellent signs, I prostrate. To the Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, King of melodious sound, brilliant radiance of skill, adorned with jewels, moon, and lotus, I prostrate. To the Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, stainless excellent gold, illuminating jewel, who accomplishes all conduct, I prostrate. To the Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, glorious Supreme One, free from sorrow, I prostrate. To the Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, melodious ocean of proclaimed Dharma, I prostrate. To the Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, clearly knowing by the play of supreme wisdom of an ocean of Dharma, I prostrate. To the Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, perfectly completed Buddha, medicine guru, king of lapis light, I prostrate. Okay, so next is this prayer of actual confession. If you want to, you can sit down and we can read it together, or if you want, you can keep doing prostrations if you know it by heart. Thank you. So this is on page 49. All those and others, as many Tathagatas, Arhats, perfectly completed Buddhas as there are, existing, sustaining, and residing in all the world systems of the 10 directions, all you Buddha Bhagawans, please pay attention to me. In this life and in all the states of rebirth in which I have circled in samsara throughout beginningless lives, whatever negative actions I have created, made others create, or rejoiced in the creation of, whatever possessions of stupas, possessions of the Sangha, or possessions of the Sangha of the 10 directions that I have appropriated, made others appropriate, or rejoiced in the appropriation of, whichever among the 5 actions of immediate retribution I have done, caused to be done, or rejoiced in the doing of, whichever paths of the 10 non-virtuous actions I have engaged in, caused others to engage in, or rejoiced in the engaging in, whatever I have created, being obscured by all these karmas, causes me and sentient beings to be reborn in the hell realms, in the animal realm, and in the preta realm, in irreligious countries as barbarians or as long-life gods, with imperfect faculties, holding wrong views, or not being pleased with Buddha's descent, in the presence of the Buddha Bhagawans, who are transcendental wisdom, who are eyes, who are witnesses, who are valid, and who see with omniscient consciousness, I am admitting and confessing all these negativities. I will not conceal them nor hide them, and from now on, in the future, I will abstain and refrain from committing them again. All Buddha Bhagawans, please pay attention to me. In this life and in all other states of rebirth in which I have circled in samsara throughout beginningless lives, whatever roots of virtue I have created by generosity, even as little as giving just one mouthful of food to a being born in the animal realm, whatever roots of virtue I have created by guarding morality, whatever roots of virtue I have created by following pure conduct, whatever roots of virtue I have created by fully ripening sentient beings, whatever roots of virtue I have created by generating bodhicitta, whatever roots of virtue I have created by my unsurpassed transcendental wisdom, all these assembled and gathered, combined together, I fully dedicate to the unsurpassed, the unexcelled, that higher than the high, that superior to the superior. Thus I completely dedicate to the highest, perfectly complete enlightenment. just as the Buddha Bhagawans have fully dedicated, just as the future Buddha Bhagawans will fully dedicate, and just as the presently abiding Buddha Bhagawans are fully dedicating, like that I too dedicate fully. I confess all negativities individually. I rejoice in all the merits. I urge and implore all Buddhas to grant my request. May I receive the highest, most sublime, transcendental wisdom. To the conquerors, the best of humans, those who are living in the present time, those who have lived in the past, and those who will likewise come, to all those who have qualities as vast as an infinite ocean, with hands folded, I approach for refuge. So then we usually recite the general confession as well. So that's on page 53. Uhula, O great Guru Vajradhara, all other Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who abide in the 10 directions, and all the Venerable Sangha, please pay attention to me. I, who am named, circling in cyclic existence since beginningless time until the present, overpowered by mental afflictions such as attachment, aversion, and ignorance, by means of body, speech, and mind, have created the 10 non-virtuous actions. I have engaged in the 5 uninterrupted negative karmas and the 5 nearing uninterrupted negative karmas. I have transgressed the vows of individual liberation, transgressed the vows of bodhisattvas, and transgressed the samaya of secret mantra. I have been disrespectful to my parents, have been disrespectful to my Vajra masters and to my abbot, and have been disrespectful to my spiritual friends living in ordination. I have committed harmful to the 3 jewels, avoided the holy Dharma, criticized the Arya Sangha, harmed sentient beings, and so on. These and many other non-virtuous negative actions I have done, have caused others to do, have rejoiced in others doing, and so forth. In the presence of the great Guru Vajradhara, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas who abide in the 10 directions, and the Venerable Sangha, I admit this entire collection of faults and transgressions that are obstacles to my own higher rebirth and liberation, and are causes of cyclic existence and miserable lower rebirths. I will not conceal them, and I accept them as negative. I promise to refrain from doing these actions again in the future. By confessing and acknowledging them, I will attain and abide in happiness, while by not confessing and acknowledging them, true happiness will not come. Okay, so we can sit down. So now there's some visualization to do. Once again, remember all these Buddhas in the space in front of you. Shakyamuni Buddha, the 35 Buddhas, the 7 medicine Buddhas. So they're there in the space in front of you. And imagine that they're very pleased, very happy with your practice, our practice, because they have love and compassion for us, and they want us to be happy. They don't want us to suffer. And they know that it's up to us to do the right things in order to be happy and avoid suffering. And so doing purification practice, feeling regret for our non-virtues, and then doing this practice of, reciting the names, prostrating and so on, declaring our non-virtues. This is really good for us. It's a way of freeing ourselves from the negative karma we created, so we don't have to suffer, and instead we can progress along the path, get closer to enlightenment. So that's exactly what they want. They know that's the best thing for us to do, and they're really happy about that. So imagine them feeling very pleased, happy. And imagine light and nectar flowing from their holy bodies, flowing into you, completely filling your body, your mind. And that light and nectar purifies all negative karmas, all defilements and imprints collected on your mental continuum since beginningless time. And generate strong faith that your mind has become completely pure. Imagine your body becoming light and clear like a piece of crystal. Your mind becoming calm and clear like a cloudless sky. And it's also recommended to reflect on emptiness. This is actually the best way to purify. And it's not easy to understand, but I'll lead a little meditation to help you get some sense of what emptiness means. So it means that all things, all phenomena, including our self, the I, the me, and other people, other beings, and our bodies, our minds, and all the things around us in the world, in the universe, including Buddhas and Buddha lands, Pure Lands, Arhats, Nirvana. So everything within samsara and also beyond samsara, absolutely everything that exists has the same ultimate nature, the ultimate mode of existence, which is called emptiness. Emptiness doesn't mean nothingness, non-existence. It just means that everything is empty of a certain mode of existence that our mind in ignorance projects onto things and believes it's there. So that's like a false mode of existence, and it's called inherent existence or independent existence or true existence. So what it means is we tend to see everything as if it exists all on its own, independently, as if it could stand alone, totally cut off, totally separate from everything else. And that's just not true. Nothing exists that way because everything depends on other things. Everything is dependent, not independent. So for example, our own I, our self, I, me. So we came into existence in dependence on our parents, our mother and father, who brought our body into existence, gave birth to us, took care of us when we were small. So we depend on our parents. We also depend on food and water and air. We couldn't live without those. And we also depend on our past karma that we created in past lives that resulted in our present life and all the experiences we have in this life. So we also depend on those things. So there's many, many things that we depend on. We depend on other sentient beings providing us with our needs and helping us be happy. So we just don't exist independently on our own. I'll see if that makes sense to you. We also depend on the parts that make us up, like our body and our mind. And our body, in turn, has many different parts: blood, bones, skin, flesh, organs, cells, and so on. So there's many, many parts of our body, and also many parts of our mind, different thoughts and feelings and memories and so on. So without all these parts being there, we wouldn't be there. We wouldn't exist without those parts. And the same is true for everyone else, all other beings, and all other phenomena. Even Buddha. Buddha also doesn't exist independently. To become a Buddha, he created a lot of causes. Like he cultivated bodhicitta, he practiced 6 perfections, created a lot of merit over many, many lifetimes in order to become Buddha. So without doing all those things, there would be no Buddha. So any phenomena that we look at and examine, we will find that it depends on other things. Nothing is independent. Nothing stands alone. So that's kind of a simple meaning of emptiness. Things are empty of independent existence. So there's no independently existing I who creates karma, who does actions, good or bad. And there's also no independently existing action. The actions we do are also dependent on different factors, like our motivation, and then our carrying out the action, and other thoughts we have while we're doing it, and so on. So that also, the action is also dependent, not independent. And actions are always done in relation to some object, like another being or an object that we steal, for example. So there's always an object involved. And that too is dependent and not independent, doesn't stand alone. So just try to get some sense, even a tiny understanding of this meaning of emptiness, and that all phenomena, yourself and others and objects, everything in samsara, everything beyond samsara, all these things are empty of independent, inherent existence. That's their real nature. And so it's good to do that as part of the practice of purification, but also dedication of merit. So when we dedicate merit, it's also good to remember emptiness. So I'll just read the words from the book which Rinpoche composed. When we dedicate merit, we can also dedicate the merit accumulated by others. So we can think of all living beings, both ordinary beings and also enlightened beings, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and all the merit they created in the past and also in the present and also in the future, the merit we will create. So it's like a huge ocean of merit or virtue. We can mentally collect all of that together and then dedicate that. So I'll just read Rinpoche's words. You can follow the best you can. Due to all the 3-time merits accumulated by myself, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and all sentient beings, which are completely empty of existing from their own side, may the I, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, quickly achieve the state of full enlightenment, which is completely empty of existing from its own side, in order to lead all sentient beings who are completely empty of existing from their own side to that state by myself alone, who is completely empty of existing from its own side. Due to all the 3-times merits accumulated by myself, all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and all sentient beings, may the precious supreme enlightened thought, bodhicitta, letting go of self and cherishing others, which is the source of all success and happiness for myself and all sentient beings, immediately be generated within my own mind and within the minds of all sentient beings. May that which has already been generated never decline, but increase more and more. So this is a good practice to do on a daily basis, but it doesn't have to be done in such an extensive way as we did. It depends on your time. And also, once you learn how to do it, once you've done it a number of times, and especially if you learn by heart the names of the Buddhas, then you can do it more quickly. Yeah. And it's not that difficult to memorize the names. If you do it every day, and one way of doing it is if you have your book open, you read the name and then you prostrate. Then you read the next name and prostrate. And if you keep doing that a number of times, eventually you'll know the names by heart. Yeah, your mind will just remember them. and then you can do it without reading the book. And what Rinpoche recommends is doing one prostration for each Buddha, if you have time to do that. Otherwise, you can just keep prostrating while reciting the names, then it becomes a little shorter. But if you're doing one prostration to each Buddha, it's good to recite the name as many times as you can. Like, keep reciting the name while you're prostrating. You might be able to recite it 2 or 3 times, depending on how fast your tongue is. But yeah, because reciting the names is very virtuous. That was one of the 6 recommended practices for the 3rd power, the power of remedy, reciting the names of Buddhas. So that's very virtuous, to recite the name of the Buddha. So being able to say it a number of times is very good. And so that's one way of doing it. Recite either, do one prostration to each Buddha, reciting the name, or just continue reciting the names and prostrating. Depends on how much time you have. And then you can also learn by heart the last prayer. Again, if you keep reciting it every day, eventually you'll know it by heart, and you can again continue prostrating while you're doing the last part of the prayer as well. So it sort of depends on your ability or experience, but once you know it, once you've practiced it for a while, you can do it in, fairly short amount of time. Are there any questions that anyone has? I don't know, some of you that may have been your first time doing it and something you don't understand about it. Cindy.
Hi, Venerable. Can we tape down the names of the 35 Buddhas and do the prostration? Play it, and then we do the prostrations.
Yeah, you say tape it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another way of doing it. You can make a tape recording of the names and play that, or on your phone. I guess, can you make recordings on your phone? Phones are amazing. You can do everything with them. Yeah, so you can do that and then play that and listen. And again, eventually, but it's better if you recite the name. So if while you're hearing it, or right after hearing the name, it's good to recite it yourself. You know what I'm saying? The recitation of the name is good. I forgot to mention that this morning, but I was thinking, while I'm reading the names, you could repeat it yourself. Yeah, right after hearing it, then you repeat it. So that way you are reciting, you're creating that virtue of speech, verbal virtue. So it's fine to record the names, but still good to recite it along with the recording, and then eventually you probably won't need the recording anymore. You'll know them by heart.
Thank you.
Sweet Kim.
Hi, Venerable. Thank you for your teaching. My question is, I know that some of the Buddhas' names are especially powerful in purifying certain negativities. Okay, and my question is, like, for some Buddhas, it's like, 3 yawns, some are like immensely powerful kind of number, like the glorious flower, So my question is, Buddhas are actually of the same power. Why is it that Some are so much more powerful when you recite their names. Yeah.
Yeah, he's talking about, Rinpoche shared with us, like each of the Buddhas, by reciting the name of that Buddha, then it purifies some huge amount of negative karma. I'm not sure where I have that. I have it somewhere on my computer. But yeah, it's kind of inspiring. Yeah, there's actually a little booklet. I don't know if you have copies here in the center, but a booklet that contains Rinpoche's teachings on this practice, and it gives a lot of background information, but also the list of those. Yeah, let me just see, I have it here somewhere. Yeah, this little booklet is called The Preliminary Practice of Prostrations. So just as an example, yeah, reciting the name of Guru Shakyamuni Buddha, which is the first of the Buddhas, it purifies 80,000 eons of negative karma. Right? And yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why. Yeah, so it's in this book. And yeah, the second Buddha, thoroughly destroying with Vajra essence, purifies 10,000 eons. Another one, 10,000. Another one, 1,000. I don't know. He didn't explain that. So I don't know why. Yeah, sorry. I mean, I could guess, but it may not be the right reason. And I don't know if he explained it here either. Yeah, so Rinpoche says there are two texts that explain the benefits of prostrating to each of the Buddhas. One is, as Lama Atisha explained, and the other is by Gyaltsab Rinpoche, Lama Tsongkhapa's disciple. And there's another text by Ngulchu Dhammabhadra. But yeah, it doesn't explain the reason why there are differences in how much karma is purified. It's a good question. Maybe you can ask Ken Rinpoche when he comes back. Oh, here it is. Okay, I found it here. Lama Atisha explained why these names have so much power. When the 35 Buddhas were following the Bodhisattva's path, they made prayers. They prayed that when they become enlightened, anybody who recites our names and does prostrations, may they purify such and such. So it's according to prayers made by those 35 Buddhas when they were still on the path. They prayed, anybody who says my name, may they purify this and that. So that's the reason. So you have to ask them. So why only 10,000 and not 80,000? But also, some of them purify specific kinds of karma. For example, the one Buddha called glorious manifestations, illuminating all. So that purifies the negative karma accumulated by rejoicing in the negative karmas created by oneself and others. For example, when there was a war between the United States and the Taliban, you know, if you hear that many enemies were killed and you rejoice, then that you create negative karma by doing that, right? So we have to be really, really careful to avoid rejoicing in non-virtuous actions that are done by others, but also by ourselves. So if we do that, it's called negative rejoicing. so that we create negative karma. So that particular Buddha prayed to purify that kind of negative karma that sentient beings create, negative rejoicing, which happens a lot. People who don't know about karma, when there's a war going on, they usually take sides and rejoice when their enemy is killed, or when there's a criminal who commits crimes, and then that person is caught, and maybe they're executed, and people rejoice. In America, people sometimes gather outside the prison, and they know at what moment that person is going to be executed, and they have a party, they're really happy, they rejoice. So that's really negative, and they don't know it, they don't realize they're creating negative karma. So it's very wonderful that this particular Buddha wanted to purify. But of course we have to recite his name in order to get that benefit, so yeah. But anyway, we probably have created that kind of karma in this life and also in past lives. So by reciting the name of that particular Buddha, then that karma is purified. Yeah, so if you're interested in this booklet, you can probably get it on the in the FPMT shop. And it's called The Preliminary Practice of Prostrations. Preliminary Practice of Prostrations to the 35 Confession Buddhas. It's 100 pages long, so it contains quite a bit of explanation on the practice. So does that satisfy your question, Sri Kim? Surely.
Hello, Venerable. My question, in a way, is related to purifying afflictions. The 5 families, Buddha families, they purify certain afflictions and obscurations. Should we, when we do the prostration, Ashobhya, for example, should we keep in mind what they purify?
Well, when we visualize these Buddhas, like the 35 Buddhas, they're in the aspect of Akshobhya and so forth. But I don't know if that means they themselves are Akshobhya and Vairochana, or they just have that aspect. Because there's actually different visualizations. There's another visualization of the 35 Buddhas where each one has a different appearance, different mudras, and so on. And so that means you have to learn 35 different visualizations. This is easier. You only have to learn 5. And so I'm not really sure if visualizing the Buddhas in this way, you get the benefit of related to those 5 Buddha families. I'm not sure. Perhaps, because, just visualizing that particular aspect, Akshobhya Buddha, Vairochana Buddha, and so on, and the colors and so on, it probably does help us to get those qualities, those benefits.
Actually, Venerable, I have one question here related to the 35, just now the 35 Buddhas. In the line of there is the 2...
which page are you on? Which page?
Page 44.
44, okay.
You have the Tathagata water god.
Yeah.
And deity of the water god.
Mm-hmm.
So these 2 are the same water god?
No, they're not the same. I don't know where their names come from. I mean, yeah, each Buddha has...
Is this a different or is it the
they
same
are
one?
different. Yeah, they're two different Buddhas. I don't know about the origin of their names, but yeah, each Buddha has their own name, and yeah, they are two different Buddhas. Because in terms of what they purify, the Tathagata water god purifies 1,000 eons, and also purifies actions that we did in relation to female arhats, like criticizing female arhats. And yeah, so that gets purified. The deity of the water god purifies 5,000 eons of negative karma, and also the karma of killing a bodhisattva. That's pretty heavy. So yeah, there are different Buddhas, and reciting their names will purify different negative karmas.
Tashidire, Venerable, following on this particular two stanzas, can you enlighten us the difference between God and deity?
Well,
what's the difference?
it's the same
How do we,
term. Yeah. In Tibetan, they use the same term, la. Okay, Lhasa, you know, the capital of Tibet is Lhasa. So that literally means the place of the gods. And so that term is sometimes used for worldly gods, like the devas who are in samsara. So they are called La in Tibetan. But that word, that term, La, I'm not an expert in Tibetan, but that term is also used sometimes for deities, like enlightened beings, that they're also sometimes called La. So I don't know the reason, I'm not an expert in Tibetan, but yeah, when that term is used, God with a small g or even a big G, we just have to check who or what kind of being it's talking about. And yeah, these names were originally in Sanskrit. The original sutra, the Sutra of the Three Heaps, was in Sanskrit. Then it was translated into Tibetan. Now it's translated into English. So the original names were Sanskrit names, and like I say, you know, each Buddha has their own name, and sometimes the names are incredibly long, like the names of the medicine Buddhas, you know, they're really, really, really long. And why they have such names, where they get such names, I don't know. There's probably stories behind them, but I just don't know those stories. No.
Rebel, I've got a question. Can I ask about the talk about karma that day that we talk about, that you talk about the 4 things to fulfill in order for the actions to be complete? Yeah. So there's one, the third one, which is the attitude, right? Which is, you know, if we do a negative actions with anger or attachment or ignorance, and then that becomes a complete actions for non-virtuous actions. But what about non-virtuous actions?
Non-virtuous
What about virtuous actions?
Oh,
like saving a life, you know? But
Yeah.
most of us, sometimes we save a life because of attachment. Yeah, that can happen, right? It could also be based on ignorance. So does that make the saving a life incomplete?
So you're saying, if we save a life, but the motivation we have for doing it is attachment.
For example, I save my mother, you know, but it's out of attachment rather than, you know, pure.
Oh, I'm sure that there's also love. It's not just attachment, right? There may be, I mean, for us ordinary beings, whenever we love somebody, we have love for somebody, especially family members, there's always some attachment there as well. And so, but there's love. And there's this story they tell, Tibetan story, about, I think, both, it was a mother and daughter, and they somehow both fell into a river. And I guess the river was raging, and they didn't know how to swim. And so they were, each of them was trying to save the other one, right? But neither of them knew how to swim, so that ended up both dying. But they say that was a virtuous action. Yeah, they both created virtue because instead of thinking of themselves, wanting to save themselves, they wanted to save the other. That was their main concern. But when I read that, I thought, but they probably had attachment to each other, right? Parent and child, usually there's a lot of attachment there. But still, it was said to be a virtuous action. So that's a story told, and I don't remember where it is, but I've come across it a few times. It's probably in the Lam Rim. So that's an illustration of supposedly selfless action, a selfless virtuous action to save another person. But like I say, I suspect there was probably some attachment there. We can't know for sure, but they were just ordinary people, mother and daughter, so they probably did have attachment. I mean, it's difficult to have a completely pure mind when we're doing a virtuous action, totally pure without any attachment involved. But as long as we try our best, we try to have virtue, and there probably is a certain amount of virtue there, that you care about that person or that being, and you don't just walk away, but you take the time and energy to save their life. So I think it's still virtuous. That's my understanding, and like I say, based on that story, it does seem to be the case.
So it is still complete, right? Complete action.
Complete. Well, I mean, as far as I can know. But to say, I don't have the ability to look into somebody's mind. Like the Buddha has that ability. They can look at that person's mind and know if it's a completely virtuous action or not. I don't have that ability. But just based on what I understand, it sounds like it would be complete.
Yes, Venerable. This is regarding on the last Tuesday talk. We talked about the non-virtuous act. Of course, the first one is killing, no killing. And I've been reading this sutra, the Great Liberation Sutra. And this particular page, 131, I shall pass to you. Actually written here, I was quite troubled with this sutra. On this particular page, I just need to ask you. So it says, it right here, Prince Virtuous to see, it is like this. Previously, I was king, known as Great Rich Generosity. At that time, as no Buddha has arisen, for full 20 years, I make celestial offerings from food and clothing to homes and bathing to some 500 Brahmins. At that destined time, I said, may you all generate the mind of enlightenment. But those 500 Brahmins, even as they accepted the offerings given, had no faith in the three jewels, and therefore, in that very instant, they said to me, there is no enlightenment.
I'm sorry, which page are you on?
131 of the Great Liberation Sutra. So they say there is no enlightenment in the world, and there is no complete liberation. When I heard them utter those words, in order to protect the emptiness sutras, I killed those 500 Brahmins. When those five...
Sorry, I'm trying to find this page, because you're reading too fast, I can't.
It's on page 131.
I have a PDF, but it's on a different page.
There's no chapter. Yeah, you show her.
is it?
131.
131, did you say? Okay. 500 Brahmins. Because I haven't read this sutra before, so I don't know. 500 Brahmins, there it is. Okay, so you're troubled because of this killing of 500 Brahmins.
Yes, and subsequently, actually, they fell to health, and then they actually continue to generate faith, and then I think they go to a higher realm. So I just want to know, is it justified to kill if, I mean, in this case, is it, I mean, it becomes like there's a justification to kill if there's a good, what you call it, intention.
Yeah, my understanding is no. So I couldn't explain. I haven't read this sutra before, and I haven't had teachings on it. So I don't have the ability, I don't have the knowledge to explain this. I mean, in Vajrayana Buddhism, there's sometimes stories of practitioners who do acts of killing, but they have very highly accomplished minds and powers, and they're actually, when they kill a being, they can actually transfer the being's mind to a pure land, yeah? So they have that kind of ability. So there are some stories like that in the Vajrayana tradition, but I don't think this sutra is from that tradition. I think it's a sutra. So I don't know. I can't say, okay? Maybe I'll look and see if I can find some information about that, okay. But right now I don't.
Then the second question is because they fell to health, and then they continue to practice and then pay respect, take refuge in the three gems, jewels, and then they got enlightened. So this is the second question I want to ask. That means if you were a hell being, can you still practice?
Yeah, I mean, normally, yeah, in hell you're just suffering and screaming and very difficult to practice. But maybe they were special. They do talk about bodhisattvas going to hell, actually they pray to go to hell in order to help the hell beings. So when they are in hell, I don't think they are suffering and screaming, but they are there to help those beings. So maybe that's the case with these beings as well, that they're kind of special because of their realizations and accomplishments, or even if they're in hell, they're still able to practice. But yeah, I would have to look into this. Right now I don't know. Okay, so we should stop here. And so after lunch, my thought was to do this practice of extensive offerings. And if you would like to, I mean, it's nice if we ourselves make offerings. So during the lunch break, you might want to buy some fruits, some flowers, things that would be suitable to offer, and they could be placed on this table. So then we can then offer those collectively. And there's also lots of other offerings. I mean, these are for Guru Puja tomorrow, so maybe we should leave them for tomorrow. But upstairs, level 5, there's 1,000 sets of offerings. There's also other offerings on the altar, and on level 4, I think, there's lots of offerings up there. So we can mentally make all of those offerings, but it's nice if we ourselves contribute to offerings, so you're welcome to do that. And not too much, so that it fits on these tables, because that table had to be set up for tomorrow because there was no other time to do it but yesterday. So, yeah. So let's close with making a mental dedication of the merit we have created so far today, doing the meditations and the practices we did this morning. just feel rejoiceful, glad that we did these practices. We definitely did something good for ourselves and good for all sentient beings because we had the bodhicitta motivation. So we definitely created a lot of virtue and also purified a lot of negative energy. So feel happy, rejoiceful about this. And then let's mentally dedicate this merit to all sentient beings, wishing it will help all living beings become free of all their suffering and causes of suffering, and will help them all achieve genuine peace and happiness up to the highest happiness of enlightenment. Okay, so thank you, and we'll meet again at 2.